Well, hi everyone. My name is Mike. I guess we all know why we're here. The guest of honor, R.L. Stine, is here, of course. We all grew up reading his books, and we're still reading his books. He's doing so much. We're going to have lots to talk to you about. Today, this format's going to be a little different than maybe the other panels that you've seen. Mr. Stine is going to talk on his own for a few minutes, read us perhaps something spooky, and fill us in on what he's been up to. And then we'll, at the second half of this, we'll switch back to the Q&A, so you guys have some time to think about your questions. And we don't have a mic here for the questions, so we'll just do sort of the hand waving, and I'll try to moderate it from there. So everyone, let's not wait another moment. R.L. Stine.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be here.
Test, test, test. There we go. There's a little lever there.
All right, help me hold.
Yeah.
It's getting scary already. I told you, I'm having a bad day. I was coming here, I was walking into the building, and thank you very much. Am I done? What? No. I was walking in, a woman stopped me at the door, and she said, "Did anyone ever tell you you look a lot like R.L. Stine?" She said, "No offense." She said, "No offense." So I'm having a bad day, I think. I don't know. Whenever I talk to people, kids or adults, I always like to start out by reading a poem by another author. This is a poem by Shel Silverstein, and it's called Haunted. I dare you all to go into the haunted house on Howland Hill, where squiggly things with yellow eyes peek past the wormy windowsill. We'll creep into the moonlit yard, where weeds reach out like fingers, and through the rotted old front door, a squeaking on its hinges, down the dark and whispering hall, past the musty study, up the winding staircase, don't step on the step that's bloody, through the secret panel to the bedroom, where we'll slide into the ragged, cobweb, dusty bed 10 people must have died in, and the bats will screech, and the spirits will scream, and the thunder will crash like a horrible dream, and we'll sing with the zombies, and dance with the dead, and howl at the ghost with the axe in his head. And come to think of it, what do you say we go get some ice cream instead? I love that poem by Shel Silverstein because it does what I try to do in all my books. It's funny and it's scary at the same time. Well, this is the 22nd year of Goosebumps. Do you believe that? My God. No, that's why I look like this. 22 years of this stuff. And people always ask me, where did you get the name? Where did you get the name for the series? How did you get the name Goosebumps? And actually, I was looking for a name. Here's how it happened. And one day, I was reading TV Guide, and they used to have these TV listings in the middle and tell you what was on television. And I was just looking through the TV listings, and down at the bottom of the page, there was a little ad, and it said, "It's Goosebumps Week on Channel 11. They were showing scary movies. And I just stared at the ad, and I said, I just stared at it, and I knew we'll call it Channel 11. That's perfect. No, I apologize for that. That's a really bad joke, right? Well, after 20 years, we're actually doing a Goosebumps movie. And yeah, I know. They're actually filming it down in Georgia right now, and I'm very excited about this. This is my biggest fan. I love this guy. Anyway, I'm a character in the movie. In the movie, R.L. Stine is this grouchy old guy who is retired and stopped writing because all of my monsters are escaping from my books, and they're all over town. And these kids come to me and say, you have to write one more book to round up all the monsters. So the question arose as to who should play me in the movie. And I asked my son, Matt, I said, Matt, who do you think should play me in the Goosebumps movie? And he said, Morgan Freeman. Matt's never too helpful. And then there were, a number of other things. And then I heard that they were talking to Jack Black. And so I'm on Twitter all day, and I put it on Twitter, and I said, what do you think, Jack Black to play me in the Goosebumps movie? And a lot of people wrote back, and they said, oh, that's terrific. He's hilarious. He's so funny. The movie will be great. And then some people wrote back and said, he sucks. He's terrible. Your movie is ruined already. You're doomed. And then a few people wrote and said, why don't you play yourself? You should play yourself in the Goosebumps movie. Who could play you better than you? So I went and I told my wife, Jane, who's over here, I have to warn you, this is a devastating line. And I said, Jane, a lot of people think I should play myself in the Goosebumps movie. And she said, you're too old to play yourself. That's horrifying, right? Partly because it was so true. But to be too old to play yourself is pretty bad. Anyway, Jack Black is me. We're like twins, right? Jack and me, right? Yeah, right. And they're filming it now, and we'll see. It's very exciting. And my other news is that I'm bringing back the Fear Street series. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. I haven't written Fear Street in about 10 years, and I missed killing off teenagers. I'm so happy to be killing teenagers again. Well, I don't know. I wrote about 80 Fear Street books and killing teenagers every month, and I didn't know why I enjoyed it so much. And then I realized I had one at home. So anyway, October, it's called Party Games, and that'll be the first new Fear Street book. I guess here are some real fan letters. This is the great part, I think, of being me, is all the amazing mail that I get. And I just get wonderful letters from kids. And these are all real. These are true fan letters. Dear R.L. Stine, I am a big fan of your Fear Street books. I read them all the time. I have just one question. Why do they end without making sense? Really? Dear R.L. Stine, you're my second favorite author. That was it. That was the whole letter. That was it. Just left me in suspense. Dear R.L. Stine, I love your books, but I'm having trouble keeping up with them. Do you think you could stop writing for a while? Dear R.L. Stine, I'm your biggest fan. Your friends and family are proud of you, no matter what anyone says. And maybe you've heard me tell my all-time favorite letter. This is my all-time favorite from a boy. Dear R.L. Stine, I've read 40 of your books, and I think they're really boring. It's perfect, isn't it? How many of you have read a Goosebumps book? Whoa, wow. Thank you very much. Thank you. And how many of you have seen my new TV show, The Haunting Hour? Actually, it's in its third season. How many? A few? Some? I don't know where it's shown in Canada. It's a Canadian show. It's filmed in Vancouver. All my YTV, I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, why TV? That question's never come up. I don't know. And how many of you have ever seen a ghost? No, I mean a real ghost, not Casper, not on TV. How many of you have ever seen a real ghost? Yeah, really? I might have. I don't know. I'm going to tell you, you'll have to decide. I'm going to tell you a true ghost story that happened to my brother Bill and me when we were growing up back in Ohio. My cousin Stanley, we lived in a little house in the suburb of Columbus. And my cousin Stanley lived 2 blocks away. And we hated Stanley. We hated him for a couple of reasons. One is my family was really poor, and Bill and I had to wear Stanley's old clothes to school. And he was really mean about it. He'd say, "That shirt looked much better on me, and you look like a clown in those pants." So we hated that. And the other thing about Stanley is he was always scaring us. He loved to scare us. And he would jump out of closets and hide under the bed and come crawling out. And he'd always just scaring us. And I think Bill and I think our big ambition in life was to scare Stanley back. That's all we wanted to do. And one day I had an idea for doing it. This old man about 3 houses down died, Mr. Wilson. He'd been sick for a long time, and he died, and his house was empty. And one morning, I was walking to school, and I saw that his front door was open. And I thought, oh, someone left Mr. Wilson's door open. So I went up the drive to close the door. And when I was on his front stoop, I thought, well, maybe I'll just take a look around his house. And I went inside, and it was very cold inside. It was October, and the heat was off, and there was no electricity. There was just this pale morning sunlight coming in through the front window. But everything else was still in order. All the furniture was there. Everything was just as Mr. Wilson left it. And I walked around the house, and I went into his bedroom, and that's where I had the idea on how to scare Stanley. And that afternoon, I told it to my brother Bill. I said, "Bill, here's what we're going to do. Stanley's coming for dinner tomorrow night, and you know Stanley is afraid of ghosts. Here's what we're going to do. You sneak over to Mr. Wilson's house after dinner, get into his bed, climb under the covers so that you're completely covered up, and then I will dare Stanley to come. I'll say, 'Stanley, I bet you won't go to a dead man's house,' and of course he'll have to come. And I will lead him into the bedroom, and then you slowly, slowly sit up under the covers and say, 'Get out of my house.' I know it'll work. I know we can scare him." And Bill said, "That's a great idea. We'll do it. My only problem is I have my trombone lesson tomorrow, and it might run late." My brother played trombone. He was short, and his arms were real short, so he couldn't play any low notes. He played trombone. He couldn't reach the low notes. He only played high notes, but he liked it anyway. And I said, "Bill, not a problem. I'll keep Stanley at home after dinner. I'll keep him. We'll play a game. We'll do something, and give you plenty of time to get over to Mr. Wilson's and get under the covers." So the next day, Stanley came for dinner, and we had a nice long dinner, and then we played some game after dinner. And I said, "Stanley, I have a little challenge for you. I'll bet you're too scared to go to a dead man's house." And Stanley said, "No, I'm not. What are you talking about? Come on, let's go." So I led him over to Mr. Wilson's house, and I remember it so clearly. It was this cold October night, and the ground was all crunchy hard from the frost. It was a kind of cold that clings to your skin. And we went up, and the opened the front door and stepped into the living room, and there was just a sliver of pale moonlight coming in through the window, and it was cold in the house and very dark. And I said, "Stanley, I'll bet you're afraid to go into a dead man's bedroom." He said, "Lead the way, I'm not afraid of anything." So I led him into Mr. Wilson's room, and I could see the lump under the covers. And we stood in there, and I could see it slowly rise in the bed, slowly rise. And then he said, "Get out of my house!" And Stanley's eyes bulged, his mouth dropped open, and he let out a squeak. He couldn't even scream. He was so scared. He just squeaked, and he turned around. It worked, and he went running out of the house, and he ran out through the front, and he was screaming. I heard him screaming down the street. It worked. It was fabulous. Oh, I was so happy. And I went to the front door and watched Stanley running down the street, and then I saw my brother coming up the driveway carrying his trombone. And he said, "Am I too late to scare Stanley?" Well, that's my true ghost story. Thank you very much. Do you think I made up some of the true story? Or a lot of it? I don't know. Okay, now look forward to hearing your questions. Thank you very much.
Real or not, I was scared. I was like, I don't know if you saw, I was holding my chest. Yeah, so this is up for you guys, so let's just get right to the questions. I see one right here.
It's not a question. Thank you for the nightmares.
I don't know. I'm always not so happy when parents write to me and say, "Oh, your books gave my," well, you know, they write to me and say, "Thanks to you, my kids have to sleep in bed with us now. Thank you very much."
Oh, blue shirt.
How did you get published as for a children's book when like all you're doing is killing children?
Well, people like that. I don't know. You know, I wrote funny books for years. I never planned to be scary. I always just wanted to be funny. And I wrote about 100 joke books for kids and humor books for kids, but no one really noticed. And then my very first teen novel, Blind Date, came out, the first horror novel, and it was a #1 bestseller. And I realized I had found something. I found something kids like to be scared. And that's why we do it.
Excellent. Up there, yeah.
Okay. As far as your Fear Street series goes, when you're coming up with those really nightmare-inducing ways to kill teenagers, do those come first, or do you have to fit them to the plot afterwards?
Have to fit them to what?
Into the plot afterwards.
Well, you do the plot all at once. I outline every book that I write, and I usually know the ending first. I figure out an ending, and then that lets me fool the readers. I know how to keep the reader from guessing the ending. And then I go back and do an outline. Chapter 1, this is everything that happens. Chapter 2, this is everything that happens. And, you know, the books aren't just for killing teenagers. I mean, there's a lot of supernatural stuff and a lot of mystery to it. And I, you know, plan out every book, you know, before I ever sit down to write. People hate that. When I tell kids, "Oh, yeah, I do," people hate outlines, right? No one likes it, but I can't work without one.
Was there ever a book that Scholastic said, "No, you can't, we won't publish that"?
No. Usually, I'm fairly conservative, I guess, because they're always telling me, "Make it scarier."
Oh.
They make it scarier. All the publishers say, you know, "Hype it up, make it scarier, make it gorier." I was talking about this yesterday. I can only think of one case where I went too far. There was a Goosebumps book called The Girl Who Cried Monster. And there's a librarian who is a monster. And in the first draft of the book, this girl sees the librarian eat a kid. And they kind of thought that was going too far, to have a kid eaten. So I changed it, and I put a bowl of live turtles on the librarian's desk. And every once in a while, he picks up a turtle and he eats the turtle, which was actually better, right? Because it's crunchier. It's a lot crunchier than a kid. But that's the only time I can remember where they told me to, pull back a bit.
That's interesting. Over here, yeah.
I gotta say, my favorite book of yours is Stay Out of the Basement, primarily because it made me scared of my dad. It's super serious, it did. I was a little kid. Was the dad in that book inspired by anyone in particular that you knew?
No, it wasn't. The book was inspired by Little Shop of Horrors, the original film, and with this killer plant. And the book started with one image. It's a book about the father is down in the basement and he's slowly turning into a plant, and he's trying to hide it from his kids. But I had one image in my mind. I have no idea where it came from, where the father takes off his baseball cap and he's got leaves growing out of his head instead of hair. And to me, I thought that was that would be terrifying for a kid. But I don't know where it came. Why do you think of these things? Right?
Why do you?
I don't know. You never know. Every author's most asked question is, where do you get your ideas? And it's an impossible question to answer. I was walking my dog in the park, and these words just popped into my head. Little Shop of Hamsters. And I thought, what a great title. I don't know where it came from. Suddenly it was in my head. But then, of course, I had to stop and say, how do you make hamsters scary? That was a challenge.
Yeah.
That was hard.
But you did it. Over here.
Out of everything that I've written, I think maybe The Haunted Mask. Do you know that one? Oh, thank you. And there I can tell you where the idea for The Haunted Mask came from. Actually, I told this yesterday too, but this is about a girl named Carly Beth who wants to be scary, and she pulls on this green, horrifying mask, and it sticks to her face. She can't get it off, and it turns her evil, becomes part of her. And the idea for this book actually came from my son Matt when he was little. He was a little guy, and it was before Halloween, and I'm watching him from the doorway, and he's trying on a green rubber Frankenstein mask, and he pulled it down over his head, and then he couldn't get it off. And I'm watching him, he's tugging at it, and I thought, I should have helped him, right? I should have helped him. I didn't win the Good Parent Award that day, but it was a great idea for a book.
I know. I'm sure you guys did too. Any time I put on a mask, I always thought of that book. Like every single, I was like, I took it off right away. I was like, please come off, please come off.
That's right. Thanks.
Up here.
Do you have a favorite horror movie or TV show or some piece of inspiration that really speaks to you?
I've had some that were very influential to me. Rod Serling in The Twilight Zone. That was a very influential show, and he was a very influential writer to me. There are horror movies that I really like. The Jack Nicholson Shining. That's a great horror film. I love Evil Dead 2. I just think that one's hilarious. And I like Arachnophobia.
Yeah.
I recommend that one as a good kids' horror movie with all those thousands of spiders. Yeah.
I didn't sleep with sheets for like years after that. It was terrifying. There's a question right here.
First off, I'd like to say you were the second author I learned to read from. Dr. Seuss beat you there.
Dr. Seuss usually beats me.
I had the first 100 Goosebumps books you wrote, and I was curious, out of those 100, what was your favorite monster?
Favorite monster? The monster in Camp Jelly Jam. Do you remember him? He was this enormous monster at this summer camp, and he was horrible smelling, and he couldn't stand his own smell. And so he had campers bathing him 24 hours a day to keep, so because he couldn't stand his smell. And then, I don't want to spoil it, but the book ends with the campers refuse to bathe him, and he dies from his own smell. Don't ask me where that idea came from. It came from my son, who was, no, it's not.
Yeah. There was a question. Yeah.
Back to the question, back to the movie. What inspired you to decide to create it, and also what was your reasoning for getting Jack Black's place?
Well, what inspired me to create what? No, I had nothing to do with creating the movie. Sony, Columbia, and Scholastic are producing it. And believe me, no one asked me about it. No, except how I'm portrayed. We had movie deals for 22 years for Goosebumps, but no one ever likes to make movies out there. They just like to make deals. So I mean, I've had so much better luck in television than I have in movies. Things don't get made. So it's kind of a miracle this film's being made.
March 2016.
Yeah, I have to live 2 more years to see it. That's the
It's a while.
problem. It's
Yeah.
not coming out till 2016. But there's a lot of special effects. It's amazing. All the early monsters from the early books, and Slappy the Dummy is in it. And yeah, there's a lot of special effects. So that should be fun.
Excellent. Okay, I'm gonna be the Debbie Downer. We have 5 minutes left, so I'll try to get through them as I can. Right up here.
My question was, when you're actually in the process of writing and figuring out your books, do you have anything, like, is there music that you listen to, or are you more of a kind of person who likes to, like, close himself into solitude, or, like, what's your process there?
I am a writing machine. And I can write anywhere. I don't know. I'm just cut out. I've been doing this since I was 9 years old. And I still, look forward to it and love it. And I can write. I don't have music on. I have a room in my apartment, which is my office, and I have some atmosphere in it. I have a 3-foot-long cockroach, and I have a human skeleton, and some eyeballs, some atmosphere.
Normal office stuff.
Yeah,
Very
office,
normal.
office stuff. And I can write. I'm a machine. I write 2,000 words a day. That's what I do. I just set a goal. I sit down at 10 o'clock in the morning, and I'm going to write 2,000 words, and then I'll get up and take the dog for a walk or whatever. And I do it maybe 6 days a week. And since I plan out all the books first, the writing part is the fun part, because I've already done all the thinking, and I can just enjoy the writing. And that's how I can, do so many books.
That's great. Okay, we have 3 questions left. We'll go here, here, and then here. So, yep.
So, you say that you would always outline all your books. Was there ever a book that you wrote and in the middle of writing it, something inspired you to change the plot or change something about the book to change the outcome?
Yeah, I don't know if I'll be able to think of anything specific for you. But yeah, you always do. I mean, you have this outline, and then you get a better idea, and you don't want to just ignore it because you have an outline. So things always do occur to you. It's true.
I personally love your choose your own adventure books.
Yeah, everyone, I love, those were really fun to write too, Give Yourself Goosebumps. I'm glad everyone really liked it. I walked into a comedy club once where I went to see somebody else at this comedy club in New York, and there was a young guy who was in the middle of his act, and his entire comedy act was about Give Yourself Goosebumps. And his whole thing was that he never did it. He read from page 1, page 2. He read it all in order. He never caught on that you were supposed to skip around. So he said, these books don't make any sense at all. Why do they publish these? And that was his whole comedy act.
Yeah, that's weird that you were there for
Yeah,
that.
haven't seen him since.
No.
but the guy needs a new act, obviously.
Yeah. What was your question then?
No, they're real easy to write because you're not writing a whole book. They only look hard to write. because, but you're writing like 7-page little things. You know, you write little 7-page adventure and move them around, and then you die, right? And then you do 7 more pages, you die, and that's it. It's pretty easy.
That's interesting. All right, last question, unfortunately.
Oh.
Blue shirt.
I have no, ever since I started writing these scary books, I don't have interesting dreams at all. I've never gotten a story idea from a dream. I have the most boring dreams you can imagine. A couple nights ago, I dreamed I was eating a Snickers bar. No, and that was pretty good. That was a pretty exciting dream.
It's calorie free when it's in your dreams. So
Yeah,
it's
that's
fine.
right. Hey, we need more time. It's not enough time.
We're getting 2 more minutes. We got 2 more
Two more,
minutes, so
come on.
we have time. So more questions. Right here.
Yeah. Ryan Gosling's first role, yeah. Say cheese and die. I don't know. They were all Canadian. It was, I've only had Canadian TV shows for some reason. I don't know. The Goosebumps show, yeah, it was all Canadian actors, Canadian crew. It was entirely, we shot Goosebumps in an old Molson brewery plant in Toronto. It's perfect for Goosebumps, right? And but I can't tell you if anyone else ever really made it other than Ryan Gosling. I don't remember.
Catherine Isabel.
Yes? Who?
Oh, man.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I was on a IMDb, sort of got lost in IMDb last night, and it's just like a who's who of Canadian actors. A lot of them still working. Yeah,
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, it's really neat. There's one over here.
I think The Haunted Mask was the truest.
The first one.
Yeah, which was the first show we ever filmed. And they just did a wonderful job. And there was a wonderful young actress who played Carly Beth named Catherine Long. And she was just incredible. And we had a great time. It was the very first Goosebumps TV show. We actually had to have 2 stand-ins for her because the mask was so tight, she couldn't breathe. So we couldn't film for very long. She really couldn't breathe in it. And so we had like 3 people playing Carly Beth at one point.
Excellent. All right. Well, I did get the wrap-up signal. Just on behalf of everyone, I want to say thank you for scaring us, but also thank you for inspiring imagination. I think it's really fascinating that this many people from all backgrounds really came here to hear the stories of the person they grew up with. It's amazing.
That's
Thank
so
you very
nice.
much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.